knitters, welcome to episode 121 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I'm your host, Devin AT. You can find me online at KnittyMcPurly.com. I'm Knitty McPurly over on Instagram, and if you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. Thank you for joining me today on this beautiful Sunday. I don't know about you where you are, but here it is amazing. It's going to be like 67 and sunny today, so I'm excited about that. If you're new, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. That would be amazing. Look at this adorable mug. Oops. Oh, there's coffee on this side. This is the side I've been drinking from. A lot of times they give you the picture on both sides, but I'm supposed to look at the picture. Love you no matter what. And it's got a heart. This is actually Gigi's mug. I found it at Lidl for her for Valentine's Day. Isn't it so cute? I think I drink out of it more than she does because it's so cute. Welcome to the podcast, friends. Anyway, let's move right along to progress and shop news. One of the things that is coming in April, sorry, coffee is, I need it, is the color of the month. And I wasn't really going to talk about this, except I showed you last week that there's like a teaser up for the color of the month. And you can order it if you want to, because it's up there and I have it. And some people have ordered it without even seeing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am filled with joy. I can't even believe you have that much confidence in my ability. So I hope that person who ordered it sight unseen really likes it. And you can do that if you want to, but if you want to wait until April 1st, you can do that too. It's going to be available all through April, so there's no benefit to ordering it early. I just thought it was really sweet that somebody ordered it without knowing what it looked like. I was like, oh, filled me with joy. Anyway, big news today is that the Bleak Midwinter Hand Balm is 50% off. This one's mine. It doesn't even have a label on the top of it, but this is the one that lives by my bed, and apparently I need a new one. So wait, don't buy all of them. Because I put this on everything. It's like the Windex in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. You know how he puts Windex on everything? I put this on everything. Like I'd like put it up my arms and I put it on my feet before I go to bed. I'll put it on my feet and then put socks on and sleep like that. And I wake up and my feet are all soft. So it's just got good stuff in it. And it smells wintry and gingery and clove-y. It smells like, you know, like at Thanksgiving, if you have hot apple cider with all of the spices. It's very spicy. Anyway, it's called Bleak Midwinter, and we're fully moving on into spring. So that hand balm, if there's any left, my newsletter subscribers have been shopping it all morning. Keep getting alerts. So if there's any left, that's 50% off. And there will be a new scent of hand balm coming soon. Also, I have my color collection. I brought them up here this time. I have them in fingering weight and DK weight. These are available in the shop now too. Aren't those great? That's my shot right there. Oh wait, I gotta look at the camera. So anyway, oh, they're just so pretty. I love them. And I had a lot of fun looking at these this week because I finished my very first Diggory tee. So I have been showing this, and see, I took the advice and I put a little bow in the back here, mainly to show me which was the back, which after blocking, you can really tell now which is the back. I'm gonna be talking more about this, but here it is for now. And I didn't wear it today because this is what I wore to Mass this morning, and I was very comfortable in it and feeling kind of lazy, so Charlotte and I actually were twinsies. I'll put up a picture. My husband took this picture at outside of Mass this morning because we had the same dress and the same sweater pattern and a hooded coat, and even our shoes were the same color. So we were total twinsies today. So anyway, I'll talk more about the Diggory tee going forward, but I was back looking at all of my yarn. You guys, the best part about being a yarn dyer is that you have constant access to all the yarn. And you can look at it and hold it up together and play with it. And that's what I did yesterday because I wanted the Diggory tee. While I'm here, might as well point out, oh, can you see my yoga mat back there? No, not quite. I am wearing the Faucette, which is a DK weight sweater pattern, always a favorite. The Diggory tee is, oh gosh, I love it so much. So when Gigi saw it, her response was, Mom, that style is so, that style vest is so in fashion. And I was like, vest? It's a t-shirt. And she said, well, you could wear it like a vest. And I said, yeah, I guess you could. But anyway, this, I worked from the bottom up. And then I'm not going to show it to you too close because I am not great at Kitchener. It's not as neat and tidy as I would like, but I Kitchenered the shoulder seams and then I picked up the neck and the arm ribbing. And this is a pattern that I want to be able to customize. I want to have options in the pattern for different ways to customize it. But this is kind of the most basic way to make it, just a fingering weight t-shirt. So I was back yesterday with all of my yarn, looking at it going, what do I want in my wardrobe? And because I wear this silhouette of t-shirt all the time, just the t-shirt kind. And so I feel like I will wear this a lot. And I love the idea of the versatility of wearing it as a vest. Yeah, Gigi was like, Mom, put a long sleeved white button down shirt under that and you're like total Gen Z trending. But anyway, that's what that is. I just tied a little bit of yarn in there to show you which is the back. So as I was back there, I was like, what do I want in my wardrobe? And what haven't I used before? And what would look really amazing? And so I decided to do a striped version in Fathom, in the Frankfurt fingering. This is the all-purpose sock yarn one. This is the Freetown fingering, which is the organic, single ply, beautiful, soft, awesome one. Now, this one is also awesome, but kind of for different reasons. And I thought, what if I paired it with Surrey silk and did a stripe? What if I did that? Why not? So I cast on a second one, and this is as far as I got. But as I was looking at colors and thinking about them, I thought, I want black and white, but I don't want black and white. I want a black, i.e. a dark, saturated dark, and white, you know, a light color that reflects a lot of light. So I have not knit with Surrey silk before, and it's a lot like working with mohair, frankly. You can see that's how far I am, you know, a couple rows in, and I'm using my stitch markers from my Lidl. It's funny, do you remember if you watched the podcast a couple weeks ago where I showed that pack of knitting stuff that I got from Lidl? A lot of it was junk. Like there was a ruler in there that had a needle gauge where you stick the needle through the holes, and they were wrong. Like if you put it into the size for a US, if it was supposed to be a US 3, it would go through the US 2 hole. Like I just chucked that thing, that's useless. And there were some row counters that didn't really work. I gave them to Charlotte. She used them for her dolls. I can't remember what they were, pillows, or I don't know what they were, but these still worked. So it ended up being a good deal after all, you know, anyway, because the stitch markers were really good. But anyway, it's fun to think about colors in terms of their value. You know, something can be black and not be black, and be a white and not be white. So I wanted a black and white striped t-shirt, basically, and that's what I'm doing here. I have some other ideas. I feel like I'm gonna end up with 3 Diggory tees because of the ideas that I want to try out and give options for in the pattern. So I love the idea of having a pattern that's basic, like here is the knitting pattern with little text boxes throughout that say option, you know, you could try this if you want, or you could do this to customize it. Isn't that a great idea? I love that idea. So another idea that I had, and again, this was before I blocked it, because once I blocked it, because the front is worked differently than the back neck. The front neck is different. But before I blocked it, you really couldn't tell which was which is why I tied that yarn in there, which I'll just pop out later because that looks terrible. But I thought, how fun would it be to make a label to go in your sweater? And so I thought of this yesterday. I come up with my best ideas when I'm laying in bed and I'm halfway between awake and asleep. Do you ever have that happen? Where for some reason in that space, like things come together in your mind. So I thought I want a label for the Diggory tee. And so yesterday morning I drew this. And I clicked and ordered a bunch of those. So those will be coming soon. And I plan to just give them to my testers and include them as a freebie if you buy yarn from me to make your sweater. Now, the great thing about the Diggory tee is this is the second size. I typically am the second size in my patterns. My bust is 35, 36 inches. And usually that's just where I fall, is in size 2. So it only took me about 1 3/4 skeins of yarn to make this. So this is all the yarn that I'm gonna need for my sweater, which is nice. It's nice to just not need that much yarn. You could even use scraps. You could even use one of these if you wanted the stripes of all these in your sweater. Or you could do like with a full skein, you could alternate the stripes where having the full skein color alternated in there too. You know what I mean? So it's not so stripy. That would be awesome. Anyway, so many ideas. So I thought after I did the Diggory tee one, I was like, that was so fun. Because when you're designing a label, you're making something that's going to be printed on fabric and you can't get too detailed. It has to be broad strokes. And so it's quick and easy to draw. So after I drew that, I was like, I gotta do more. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun? Yesterday was amazing. I had such a good day. It was cold and rainy here. And so we did cleaning and we did laundry and all that, but we also sat on the couch, my family and I just sat there with my iPad and designed stuff and drew, and it was so fun. But I thought, why don't I do one for the Vesper sweater? And so I drew this. So I messaged my testers because a lot of them got their yarn from me. Some of them didn't, but that's fine too. And I said, send me your address, your mailing address, and I will, when these come, I'll pop one in the mail to you. And so for those, I had them only printed in one color. It's a cotton label. So anyway, this is just a fun little diversion that I did yesterday. And if you buy your yarn from me for either of these sweaters, I will send you one of the tags, and they'll be here mid-April. So I'll probably have like a code or something that you enter so I know that, you know, you're buying the yarn for the sweater, and I'll send you a label. But I got the idea from, I mentioned, I think it was last week, I talked about the Joy Jacket and the, that other one by Closet Case. And they even changed their name, Closet Core or something. I don't know, I can't keep track. Anyway, both of those jacket patterns that are sewing patterns that I made a couple of years ago, when you bought the hardware kit, it came with a label, and I sewed those into my coat. Like the Joy Jacket, I think it just says Joy. And I thought that's such a great idea. I love that, the idea of having a custom label for your garment, especially a sweater, because you don't know which side is the back. Like whenever I put my Vesper sweater on, I have to look for the short rows. And they're knit in the mohair, so it's not that easy to see. So it'd be really nice to have a label to sew in there so that I could see quickly which side is the back. I love it. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Anyway, topic of the week. This week, we're going to be talking about expertise. So yesterday, well, this actually originated about a week ago. Gigi's my second oldest daughter. She's one of the 2 middle children, and she took a sourdough class. I know 0 things about sourdough. Since she took the class, I know like a tiny amount, but that's really it. I'm not really a bread baker. I have done it, you know, but I always choose the easy thing. Like I'm just lazy about cooking. So Gigi takes the sourdough class, and she came back with very specific ideas because she was taught by a person who's been making sourdough their whole life. So they said, here are the rules for making sourdough. So she comes back with the rules and some starter. All week long, she's dealing with the starter. She's feeding it and whatever, I don't know. And so yesterday, everything was ready. She had done all the dough prep, and she was gonna make the dough. She was gonna make the sourdough bread. And she followed all the rules. She did everything she was told to do. But then when it came out, it was still kind of uncooked in the middle, and it was good, but it was too dense, which, you know, gosh, your first time making sourdough, like, it was still yummy. So my husband says, like, this with the loaf of bread has been cut into, a couple pieces have been taken off, and we can see that the inside's not quite cooked. And we're like, how are we gonna solve this problem? So, you know, some people suggested, why don't we slice it and toast it? And my husband said, I always say, if you don't know what to do, ask Dad, because Dad always knows what to do. He's at least decisive enough and authoritative enough that when he does something, you feel like that was the right thing. So he says, preheat the oven, get the oven heated up again, because we didn't cut into the dough until it was cool, because that was the rule. The rule was don't cut into it until it's cool. So we had to, you know, reheat the oven back up, and he just throws the dough back in. And we wait until it looks like sourdough looks on the outside when you get it from Wegmans. Like it's kind of brown. Originally it was pulled out, it was still kind of white, but it sprung back when you touched it. Like she followed the rules, but didn't get what she wanted. So then we decided to wing it. We put it back in the oven until it looked right. And this is, you know, a piece of it is gone. And when we pulled it out, it was still hot, which was taboo. You weren't supposed to cut into it when it was hot. But we'd gotten past that. We were like, what, you know, anything goes at this point because we've already thrown the rule book out. So we cut into it as it's hot. We cut into that bread and it was amazing. Like it had that spongy, dryish, like perfect inner texture, and it had that thick, crunchy outer crust. And it got us all talking, because Gigi had put so much work into it. So at first she was disappointed, like it wasn't cooked all the way through. We were like, Gigi, it's your first sourdough, you know? And then after we threw the rule book out, what we ended up with was perfect. It was amazing. It was great. And so we got to talking about how my husband is into barbecue. He likes to, particularly brisket, like he loves to make really good brisket, and he makes the best brisket I have ever eaten. And I've eaten a couple briskets, you know, not full briskets, but I've eaten brisket at different places, like restaurants. Like, you know, you go and you order brisket. None of it is anywhere near as good as my husband's. Like he's just really good at everything, but he really tries with this. So it's like exceptional. And it's true with everything he makes. But I'm like, Gigi, think about when Dad first started doing barbecue. It wasn't bad. You know, like it wasn't as good as it is now, but it's still smoked meat. You know, it's like, it's still sourdough bread. Like it's still good. And that got us all talking about expertise and what it is to be an expert. And I thought about how I often say, do whatever you want, or there's lots of things you could do here, or there's many different options. There's not a right and a wrong way to do the thing, whatever it is. Pick any knitting topic. There's not one right way and a million wrong ways. And so then we got to talking about how the rules are very helpful for a beginner, because it gives you like bumpers, you know, it gives you kind of a lane to stay in. But when that doesn't work for you, it's okay to throw the rule book out and just try what you want. And especially in knitting, you know, you can always rip it back. So if you think, and I hear this a lot from people where they say, I feel like there's one right way. And I think a lot of people who have a platform in the knitting community are very that way. Like this is right and this is wrong. And I just think there's a lot of ways to do the thing. So there was a comment from Eileen that I'm going to talk about in the comment section, but that's the one that got me thinking. And she recommended a book called Finishing School by, I forget. I'll read it in a minute when I read the comments, but I ordered that book this morning because I thought, while there are so many different ways to do things, it's still good to learn the rules. Because if it's something totally new to you, there is going to be a way to do it where it looks terrible, right? Like that's what we want to avoid. We want it to look good. So if you try something, like it's good to learn the rules and then try that. And if it doesn't work out, then start saying, well, you know, what can I do here to fix this and make it be what I want? So anyway, I ordered that book, Finishing School, and I really want to dedicate a couple weeks to talking about finishing because that's so important. Even like my labels, like I think there's a way to sew them on so that they look better, and there's a way to sew them on so where they don't look so great. So I don't yet know what those are, but I want to explore those options and talk about that when they come in. Okay, let's get to the comments. I've made a couple changes this time around. I noticed last time that you were looking at the top of my head a lot. Luckily, I had just colored my roots, but I figured you probably don't want to see the top of my head. So I put my little iPad up on a stool right here so I can just do that. Because I thought whenever you watch like a professional podcast, they're not like looking down at their notes like that, right? Right. So, okay. All right, so this was my favorite comment. This is from Laundromat Girl, and she says, I'm in the kitchen cleaning. Oh, this is the comment section, by the way. Woo woo, comments. Laundromat Girl says, I'm in the kitchen cleaning up this morning, and my husband yells from across the room, what are you listening to? What did she just say? I said, honey, she's talking about buttonholes. He thought you said buttholes. Thought you said, so now we're going to talk about buttholes. OMG, I laughed so much about that. Thank you so much for the big belly laugh, Devin, on this cold, dreary day. Who knew that that topic would be so funny and make me giggle for the whole day while I do chores? He also claims that he's not losing his hearing. That is hilarious. And because I am the homeschool mom to an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, we talk about buttholes kind of all the time. So that was not the topic that we discussed last week on the podcast, but still funny. Olia Mikesh says, thank you for another wonderful podcast, Devin. At the end, I just wanted to reach through the screen and give you a hug, so here is a virtual one. By the way, I was happily surprised to see my photo of the Lent shawl. It is my very first mystery knit along, and I have been enjoying the daily practice of putting a few rows in, watching it grow, and anticipating the next clue. I'm using my own stash yarn in blues and greens, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. Me too, Olia. I think it looks amazing. Anyway, thank you so much for all you do to contribute to the knitting community. Thank you so much. This is Eileen's comment that had me thinking. She said, I love Barbara Walker's self-reinforcing one-row buttonhole I first saw in the book Finishing School, and that's what drew me to order it. Oh, little tip. If you're interested in getting that book, it's like $40 new on Amazon, but if you go over to ABE Books, I like to buy books used, and I don't mind buying them new if they're like 15 bucks or something, but if they're $40, I'm gonna go find it used. So you can find that for about $15 shipped over on ABE Books or eBay, or wherever you like to buy used books. You can get it for a lot cheaper. Eileen said, I think Suzanne Bryan also recommends this buttonhole and have found Suzanne's YouTube videos so helpful. And she said the cat wig totally cracked her up. It cracked me up too, because why? Why? It even had like ear holes. I mean, who has the time? I don't know. Whatever. But I have not looked into Suzanne Bryan's videos on YouTube, but they sound amazing. So if you have time for that rabbit hole, definitely, I recommend it. Baker Street Knits said, I love that buttonhole reinforcement. Buttonhole reinforcement. I bet it would be super cute with a contrast color on a sweater that has some color work or other contrast. Genius. Although that's, you know, contrast mending or reinforcing is kind of like glass-fronted cabinets in your kitchen. Like, you've got to make it pretty then. You can't hide your mess back there. Pam Hans, she said, you made me so sorry that I had to move out of Virginia. I lived in Charlottesville and visited Culpeper many times. We ate at It's About Time so many times and loved it there. I know, Pam, I wish we could have met for coffee while you still lived here, because that is just the most fun place ever. Kara Overman said, I love the book Extra Yarn. Great, great children's book. After reading it to my grandson who lives close by, I sent it along to younger grandchildren who live in a different state. My mother taught me to crochet when I was 9 and she died when I was 13. Kara, I'm so sorry. I had never stopped crocheting, and after getting married, my mother-in-law would have taught me to knit, but I wanted to learn to tat. I don't even know what tatting is. She said it was more important to learn to knit and wouldn't teach me tatting. I didn't learn to knit until I was 60 in 2020. Wow, well, welcome, Kara. I still don't know how to tat, so I guess my mother-in-law won. I don't even know what tatting is. Crazy. All right. Moving on to knitting fantasies. So as I was looking for some knitting fantasies this week, I came across an awesome website called thesprucecrafts.com. And I came across it as a knitting website, but if you go to their main page, they have all manner of crafts. If you click on knitting, and it takes you to basically very clickbaity pictures where you want to click on all of them and read every single article. But it has a lot of stuff that's good for beginners. You know, in this little video, I clicked on colorwork knitting, an article on intarsia, and that takes you to a bunch of pattern links. And it's just a great website for finding stuff. But like I said, it doesn't just have knitting patterns. Spring wreaths, bird feeders, a tablet case, pottery, ceramics glazes, crafts for kids, a magnetic chore chart DIY. Like, there's tons of fun ideas on this website. And so, you know, I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but I'll link it below in case you're interested, because I thought it was really fun. Like, it just has a lot of clickbaity pictures and articles on there that you just, like, you could totally dive down this rabbit hole and make a million things. Colorful crochet octopus patterns. I mean, there needed to be a place on the internet where all of these things were connected. And apparently there is at the Spruce Crafts. So go check that out. All right. Can you tell that in addition to not showing you the top of my head, I'm also trying to keep this closer to a half an hour because my family does like me on Sundays and they like to hang out with me. So anyway, so here's what happened. I have a story from a lovely knitter named Jen who came to my knitting retreat, so I know her. She's like my friend. Thank you so much, Jen, for sending in this story. Here it is. She says, and before I start reading, there's a little note at the bottom that says, names have been changed to protect the innocent. So, just so you know. She says, my name is Jennifer. I am one of the lucky knitters who was able to attend the retreat in January, and I had so much fun. Me too. I watch your podcast nearly every week, and they are such a joy. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Today, I want to share my knitting story with you, and if you decide, with your audience. Yes, here we are. My husband, John, is an active duty soldier. Due to the transient nature of his career, we often find ourselves attending important life events for people that we are just meeting and may not spend much time with in the future. In 2018, my husband came home one evening to tell me that he had been invited to a civilian employee's marriage blessing. Since we have been married basically forever, which I find hard to believe because Jen looks 25. I don't know how long she's been married, but she looks really young. She says, John knew I would be a little hesitant to attend such a meaningful event for someone that I hadn't even met yet, with very short notice and no gift. He immediately worked to convince me that it would really be okay. I would have fun, no gift was required, the guy he worked with was great, and his relationship had a really nice story, which is not mine to tell, so I will not tell it. For his final trump card, my husband promptly said, Tom Smith will be there. Names have been changed to protect the innocent, but we'll go with Tom Smith. We don't know Tom Smith from Adam. John knew that the mere mention of Tom Smith would be enough to break that final straw of resistance. Needless to say, I enjoy Tom's company and am able to talk to him no matter how long it has been since we last spoke. I consented to attending and set my mind on having at least one other person besides John that I would be able to talk to easily. So that weekend, we went to the marriage blessing ceremony and followed the wedding party to the reception. After spending a suitable amount of time socializing with the soldiers and civilians that John worked with, it was time for people to begin leaving. Tom Smith was one of the first out the door because he lived further away and needed to drive home. Tom turned to me and asked if I had met the bride yet. Embarrassingly enough, I had not. Laughing, Tom told me to follow him and encouraged me that I would love Annie. Tom introduced me to Annie. Annie, this is Jen, and she is a knitter. Friends, my heart skipped a beat. Tom not only knew that I was a knitter, but he was also aware of how important it was to me and to introduce me as a knitter. Then to me, he said, Jen, this is Annie. She is also a knitter. Much to my current chagrin, I discounted that Annie could be a knitter like myself. Annie's husband, Ken, heard the introduction, rolled his eyes, and thanked Tom Smith for bringing up knitting. Tom grinned from ear to ear and quickly walked out the door, leaving Annie and I to politely chat. Annie and I quickly established that we were both not only knitters, but those kind of knitters. We both love knitting with a passion. It is not only our hobby, but it is a central tenet to our person. Not only are we both knitters, but I even work at the yarn store where she frequently shops. How had we not met? We exchanged phone numbers, and John and I left as well. I went on about my week, not really thinking about Annie or Tom Smith too much, as I was absorbed in the thick of mothering and homeschooling 3 children. Jen, how do you have 3 children? You're only 25. The following weekend, John and I were in a local big box bookstore enjoying a quiet date day. And who did I bump into? Annie. We chatted for several minutes, promised to get together for knitting and coffee later, and went about our ways. I was so excited to finally have a knitting friend in my town. Over the last few years, Annie and I have become good friends. I admire her dedication to her faith, her strength, and her resiliency in the face of difficult life circumstances. I have learned so much about how to take life with grace, beauty, and pure grit by watching and listening to my friend. Through the difficulty of COVID, Annie and I forged ways to knit together regularly so that our friendship would not suffer. Today we talk often, knit together when we can, but mostly we both just enjoy having a good friend across town. I'm so thankful for our meeting and the friendship that has developed, and for Tom Smith. So Jen and I messaged a little more, and then she responded and she said this. I shared this story with Annie, and she is looking forward to hearing it too. Hi, Annie. I think, and this is me pontificating a little bit, that we don't realize how important we are to people until we read or hear their words about us. The stories you share on each episode are really important in this way. They help us remember that our lives do touch others, often in ways we don't expect. And I thought that was really insightful. I think Jen's probably an insightful person. That when we tell a story and we hear it back, it solidifies the thing in a way that wasn't before. It's kind of like, you know, the act of writing something down makes it solidified, like a goal or an idea. By telling the story, it helps both us and the people that the story is about to solidify that memory. And like Jen says, to let them know what they mean to us. So thank you so much, Jen. That is a beautiful story. I love that. I have very few people who are friends in real life who are knitters. Although now I know you guys, so you're all my real life friends. Well, I guess the ones I've met, the other ones are just internet friends. But you still count. I still love you. But send me your knitting story, friends. If you have a knitting story that is heartwarming or it's sweet or delightful or tugs at the heartstrings, we would all love to share it and to have it solidified into the fabric of the knitting community. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye, knitters.